Hello, hi, and welcome everyone. Super excited for this event today. Welcome, Saumitra. Really excited to have you speaking on analytics and a career, the sort of career path that you can explore. We haven't sort of covered this topic at all yet, so it's sort of uncharted territory. But a quick background: Saumitra spent time at YouTube working on analytics, and now works in the e-commerce division, doing analytics at Sam's Club, the Walmart subsidiary. And so, really excited to hear what you're working on now, also how you got up into that point. But with that said, I'll let you sort of give a longer background on yourself. But thank you so much for joining today and welcome.
Thank you so much, James. Yeah, it's an honor. And uh, thank you, Chris and Ankit, for starting out the Xoogler School initiative. And all right, let's quickly deep dive into this. Okay. All right. So thank you all for joining. The overall agenda for the day is it's going to be a fluid agenda for the day. I'll start with my introduction. And there are so many analytics related job titles out there, but what does each one of them mean? We'll try to answer that in analytics job title questions. Analytics plays a supporting role in an organization where they'll lend support to different verticals. So in supporting functions, we'll deep dive into popular verticals. Once we have defined the roles and the functions in the industry, we'll deep dive into the hiring process of analytics. So I'll walk you through some of the interview questions that I usually ask candidates. At the same time, what I have gained through my experiences over time. There are so many places to learn analytics. I would like to point out some of them, which are the best ones in the best places to learn analytics section. If you do not have any background in analytics, then we'll walk through where you can create a portfolio of projects as well in the next section. I'll highlight some of my influencers so you can benefit from their learnings as I have over the years. And before opening up for questions, I want to recommend some readings which have helped me grow immensely. Those are not necessarily related to analytics, but will provide you frameworks for navigating ambiguous situations within the industry. Having said that, let me give you a brief introduction of mine. So I've been in analytics space for around about 8 years now, where I've consulted in microfinance bank based out in Texas, where I've helped them build credit default models and a financial reporting system. I was engaged with PayPal, where I analyzed the performance of their digital campaigns. Overall, helped grow the business of YouTube Core, helped grow their subscription products, both YouTube Premium and YouTube TV. With YouTube TV, I helped in growth from 0 subscribers to more than 1 million. And I think they are at around 2 million plus at this point in time, which is great to see. I'm currently working for Sam's Club e-commerce business as an analytics manager. So within Sam's, I've been working on the vertical, which is experiencing more than 10x growth. And it is amazing to see the product that has helped so many people during this COVID situation. I'm talking about none other than Scan and Go apps. It's amazing product. If you haven't used it, try it. My typical workday would include running and analyzing A/B test experiments, creating business plans, and brainstorming on new features, and coaching junior analysts. I also completed my master's in analytics from LSU and currently pursuing executive education from Stanford School of Business. When I'm not working, I'm biking or making nice meals to keep my lovely wife happy. And with that, let's deep dive into what analytics is all about. Enough about me, I guess. All right. So in analytics, you'll be wearing many different hats, depending on the department you end up at. But one thing that cuts across all is that every analytics professional wears a detective hat. You would have to go deep inside the data to find out information that will help the business grow. That is definitely out there. So you have to wear a detective hat. From the get-go, you you go out there, you need to find out what is it. So that acumen, if you are not thinking in that direction, is a must have for any analyst. You want to consider yourself Pikachu or any other detective character, it's up to you. In my first analytics job, I would like to tell you the story where I found out issues in a model and immediately was faced with a challenge. Right, there was some analyst, experienced analyst actually, who validated that model before me. Now this was a tricky situation, but I learned early on that as long as you go deep inside the data and go to the level, most granular level, and math is checking out, you should feel confident in sharing the results. Be confident. Go to that granular level and do that legwork. You'll also need to follow the why. Why is this thing happening? Why is another thing happening? As gold pot that everyone talks about, right? If you follow the why, you will get there. You will get there. And in the end, we all made all the corrections in the model, right? Before anyone else found out. And my director still tells this kind of story to junior analysts, where you need to follow the why. You need to follow and focus on the why and asking the right questions and going to that most granular level. So I would advise you and recommend you to do that as you, not just an analytics job, I would say this is true for any job, any career that you choose to go in. So with that, I want us to think about why would companies want to invest in analytics? So you must have heard this phrase where companies say customer is God. Companies want to know their customer and serve their needs. That's definitely a to-go point. They want to build this long-term relationship with you so they can retain and keep on providing the value, and then customer gain the value. It is the relentless pursuit of companies to lower the cost and increase the perceived quality. These are just the two plays that a company can play in to capture the value that is available in the market. So if the company decides to either play in the zone of lowering the cost, then they would have to perform better than the competition in lower cost zone. As an example would be Walmart, low cost everyday market. And if the company decides to play in the zone of increasing the perceived quality, then an example would be Gucci or any of those high-end brands where the perceived quality is super duper high. And then also they need to outsmart the competition in that. Now, analytics as a branch help executives make strategic decisions that help them rise above the competition. That is the clear and basic definition of analytics that help in making decisions. The faster this process of analysis, the deeper the analysis with clear recommendations, executives can make sound decisions. I would recommend that you don't get into analysis paralysis mode where many analysts get caught up. They are too technical. It is a job of analysts to perform the analysis with speed and accuracy, but also have a bird's eye view of leaving ample amount of time to influence the decision. Now, every company has its core strength, and they would want to have analytics as one of them. Some examples of companies who have made analytics as their core strength and are constantly taking data-driven decisions are Google, Facebook, on the digital advertisement side of things. In retail space, we have Walmart and Procter & Gamble. I would want, I think the stories that are taught in the business schools are, you must have heard about Swiffer and Gillette. They are pretty famous, that helped Procter & Gamble reach where it is today. It is with user insights as a core strength, they are able to excel at it. So that finding out that nugget of insight is an analyst's job. Now this brings us to our next slide, which is Never say no to a problem. You'll be presented with different kind of problems, and it is important to prioritize. But saying outright that this cannot be solved based on your gut feeling, I would shy away from it. There are so many problems with the data, but saying no directly is a bigger crime. I recommend that first of all, you go ahead and do your research. Talk to experts within the company when you go out. Do your own research on Google, and then make an informed decision. Not just say no directly. That okay, I think that this cannot be done because I know this, and just making a quick decision based on your gut feel. So take your time. Never say no to no to a problem directly. All right. So before we deep dive into the analytics job titles and what does each one of them mean, I want to get a sense of the group. So if you are, why don't you go ahead and go to the code on the right, which says go to www.menti.com and type in the code over there. There is a survey question over there, which is written on the left. You will also see a similar question when you go over there. And if you can cast your vote, I just wanted to get a sense of what does each one of you want to become. We'll spend around about a couple of minutes here, and I'll see if the results are flowing in. I definitely see results flowing in here.
I think you're on mute there, Saumitra.
Okay, thanks, James. Yep, I think we have enough data points here. Thank you for your vote counts. I'll share the results later down the slides. We'll see how this plays out. All right. So with that, let's deep dive into what does each of these titles mean in a company. And okay, so before deep diving into, we have the job titles on the left and the task and the functions that each one of those perform at the top section. So I want to walk you through the tasks first, and then we'll deep dive into the titles. So as data engineering, right, and the black one, the first, which we have is defining data to collecting it, labeling it, inspecting it, building data pipelines. All of those tasks are in data engineering. So all the things that you usually think of as the ETL process, extract, transform, that is that comes under data engineering. Querying and tracing, all of that thing is done in this particular step. The next step I want to talk about is modeling the data. So training all kinds of models, such as machine learning, deep learning models, and their consistent validation of it, all are encompassed in this particular step of modeling. When you're thinking about deployment and then converting this prototype code that you have developed in the modeling stage into production ready. So all the steps that would go into production, that would entail how to deploy, what is the best way to deploy that saves time. And also we need to think about, when you're deploying the model, that the data is encrypted. Privacy is a big concern out in the industry. We all know about it. That's one of Apple's value prop at this point in time. But anyway, also in the deployment phase, what we need to also consider is that the model that we are deploying, it should be small enough to fit into a resource constrained device. A lot of times in developing world, we have these devices which cannot take up 64 GB or 128 GB of space and do not have the power and the RAM to actually run those models if we are going to deploy it. So we need to be careful about where and how we are deploying, and the model should be very light. The next part that I want to speak about is on the business analysis. And what that step contains is, this step contains data visualization, building dashboards, now presenting work to stakeholders, analyzing data sets, running experiments to see what the models that you deployed, are they actually working or not, and running all sorts of A/B tests, color encoding, like is blue better than light blue. Google has done all sorts of those things. And that's what business analysis step contains. The last but not the least is the AI infrastructure, which is really important because this is looking at the future at this point in time. It is very much software engineering driven, but plays a huge role in setting up the environment where the data gets stored, and we design it for scale. And we also need to think about, is the architecture that we are designing, is it secure or not? Now that we have talked about the tasks, let's divide them into the titles. As a data scientist would, every of these titles would do the data engineering step. But in addition to that, a data scientist would do a modeling step and will focus on business analysis. That is really important for a data scientist. As a machine learning engineer, you would want to work on data engineering, modeling, and deployment, but not so much on the business analysis side. As a data analyst, you would focus heavily on data engineering and business analysis. There will be tremendous amount of questions. Now, two out of the bottom three, which are the specific titles, they focus laying the foundation of data capture and help aid modeling. A very important step to get all the right information. Okay. Next, I want to talk about some titles that we see on the job portals and what does each one of those mean and what kind of questions they answer for a company. So let's deep dive into that. Oh. All right. So number one, product analyst. They can focus on user research to identify the needs, on experimenting the feature, if a new feature is truly better than the old one. They help product partners build business cases for new features, help find out if the product is healthy or not. So you built a product and people are going through a funnel, but something is broken. People are not able to pay when they're checking out. How do you know? You built out those funnels which will provide those signals. So that is a job of a product analyst as well. And overall tracking the user and defining the tagging so engineering team can implement it. Similarly, now those are the questions that a product analyst usually answer, but it can go to a wider array of things as well, depending on the organization. Similarly, on the operations side, I would say solving problems that help minimize risk and increase revenue. Now, as an operations analyst, you would handle the forecast for revenue, or it can be for visitors, or it can be for subscribers, whichever business that an organization is in or business unit is in. Marketing will focus a lot on the campaign analysis. That is, we are spending all this money on billboards. Can you help quantify the incrementality of this? Similarly, incrementality from email campaigns or digital campaigns. As a financial person, financial analyst, you would focus on building forecasting models, which will be focused on from a lens of finance. And that, as an example, that if we need to launch this new initiative and this person will create a model that would provide the overall impact the feature launch will have on the financial statement. So all of those things, that what is the total addressable market, and how does our activity that we are launching ties into our financial statement over time. That is a job of a financial analyst most of the time. And as a typical risk analyst, you would want to stop fraud happening on the platform and reduce the losses. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my job role that I've focused on finance, where I've helped build reporting systems and build credit default models and credit value determining those models for a bank. What that means is, do I provide a particular member or a customer who is coming to my bank a loan or not? So that's a binary flag. And then how much loan should be provided to that person? Well, that was one of the things that I did early on in my career. During my tenure as a marketing analytics professional, I would look at the lens of how we can help make marketing smarter. So doing a lot of post-campaign analysis. We launch a YouTube advertisement. What is the impact of it? So I developed analysis plans, defined success metrics, and doing all the measurements later down the line. We sent out millions of emails, and are they positively impacting or not? And revenue for the company. Just to put a dollar figure, which tactic is working, which is not, so we can exploit it in the future. Currently, I'm focused on A/B testing out new product features, where I tested out recommendation modules on the homepage of the desktop site that brought in more than $1 million in incremental revenue. Identifying user needs and help define product roadmap with new feature ideas is also something that I constantly do it with the team. With that, I want to provide you my tip number 2, which is correlation is not causation. Providing you a couple of examples of it. Members who are using the app have very high revenue per member. That might be true, but is it because of the app? We don't know that. A lot of times analysts make that mistake. A lot of time the stakeholders make that mistake of attributing something that is being high to something that is not truly causing it. Members acquired from a particular acquisition channel are retaining much better. Now, is it specifically because of that channel, or there are some other underlying reason? We don't know that. So we need to be careful. Until and unless we do a controlled A/B test, we won't be able to answer those questions. So when building business cases, people can easily fall prey and quote the unquotable. And this is an analyst's job to protect the sanctity of the job. So being aware of these pitfalls and educating others is a big part of the role. You won't be able to do it unless you understand correlation is not causation. All right. With that, I want to walk you through how does the interview overview of an analyst look like. It can vary depending on which job title you are applying to. So, but one thing is really common is majority of the questions that are being asked are SQL based. They'll ask you questions related to joins, group by, having statement, case statements. They can also go a little bit deeper on the advanced side with analytics function and asking you to optimize the queries. So preparing for SQL is a must. On the business insight side, the interview can be divided into where you will be presented with a problem and need to provide a solution. Now, here is my advice to you. At this point in time, you need to take it slow and don't jump directly into the solution. First, identify the constraints, the user, the needs, and then slowly build towards a solution. Some of the questions that interviewer would like to ask are mostly related to the business that they are in currently. How would you grow Google Maps engagement by 10x? We are running an A/B test on search page of our website where we see that the numbers of searches have gone up, but the page performance have gone down. Now, how would you navigate through those kind of scenarios? What will be your next steps? Those are the questions that interviewer will ask. So being prepared for such kind of business cases will provide you a good framework in the mind, and you don't have to scramble in the end. One book that I'm going to recommend in the end will help you and provide you with such frameworks. For dashboards, interviewer can ask you to define metrics and KPIs. Now, these questions can be clubbed with the SQL interviews, where as an example, an interviewer can ask, they can provide you a table, couple of tables, which has demographic information, and another table has information on the videos that each person has watched. How would you go about defining engagement metrics for this scenario? Then you think through what all information is available to me. What is the goal? Engagement is the goal. How would we define engagement as a metric? All of those things is a thought process that you need to start building right now. And then also the question, how do you build consensus on a dashboard? What metrics to go in, what metrics not to go in? Within organization, each person will have different views. So honing on what you are solving for is really important, and building the consensus is really important. Which brings us to our next question that interviewer can ask, which is, how do you make sure that dashboard remain relevant and people are using it after you have published it? Many a times, several analysts will build dashboards, but very less people go there and use it on a constant basis. It might be one-off cases as well. So you need to think before even publishing a dashboard, that is it really necessary? The question that I'm trying to solve, does it need a dashboard, or is it more of a one-off analysis? So asking all of those questions beforehand, before even you jump into building, is good. If it is a data scientist interview, you will be asked to write some basic codes in R or Python or SAS and explain the regression analysis outputs. And if you're interviewing for machine learning researcher, this is all they will talk about. So focus on what title you are interviewing for and how do you navigate through the outputs of some of the analysis, statistical analysis that you're going to talk about. Now, since we have already identified all of these skills that are necessary and overall interview of a data analyst and all the other analytics job titles that we saw in the previous slides, let's find out where can you learn all these things. So there are plenty of online resources at this point in time. You are lucky, guys. And some of them are mentioned here. I've personally taken these courses from Coursera, Udemy, Udacity, and Khan Academy, but all of them are great resources. I personally benefited from A/B testing course that is offered as a free course on Udacity by a couple of Googlers and the Udacity team. That course clearly lays out the nuances of A/B testing. So anyone who wants to learn what are the nuances of it, I would recommend that course any day. Now, on the other hand, I don't end up using a lot of machine learning on a day-to-day basis. So going through these courses also helped me keep updated my knowledge of it. I'm currently working on a deep learning specialization on Coursera, and I've found the courses in it to be very, very good and easy to follow. This is for my own understanding to follow the industry trends, as I believe in the next few years, humans will be taking a lot more help from machines to make business decisions, especially the more repetitive ones. As an example, which creative to show to the visitor for conversion or to increase the engagement. Now, instead of showing just one creative, let machine decide what creative they want to show it to a visitor who is visiting a website. Machine can better optimize and select from 10 given creatives versus a human who is out there. They cannot do it all on this task in real time. It's already being done in some of the big companies, but overall industry adoption will still take a few years. Now, also several universities are offering master's degree in analytics or computer science with a focus on machine learning. Many of them offer it online too. So I would recommend you check out some of them that I mentioned and do your own research. Go with the one that works out best for you. Now, for all the people who are just starting out in analytics space, you can also, there are several resources where you can create a portfolio. Kaggle is one of them. There are data sets available and you can upload your own projects there. On the dashboarding side, you have Tableau and other tools. I think they have a free version and repositories where you can upload work to public. You can also inspire yourself, but learning from others people's work. I think if you go to Kaggle, there are a lot of upvoted articles and you can pick the best one to read through it. Similarly, on Tableau public web pages, you can get inspiration on what all things you can do with Tableau. And maybe pick a data set, right? And start building out, applying things. That will give you a feel of what dashboarding is all about. Why do I care this visualization versus other? There are several cool things that you can do and start building out your portfolio from there. So it gives you a leg in the door. And let me tell you, interviewers like self-starter candidates. So be a self-starter. So many a times what will happen is there are a lot of sources and it's the same source that is being repeated again and again. What if we want to work on something new, something very challenging? There are a lot of data sources, and to get the data sets to work on it, you can visit any of these 4 sites and sites which are not mentioned here too. You can find new ones from these data sources which suit your need. Sometimes you can also look for aggregated demographic data on a zip code level, which can combine with your own data set to enhance the richness of what you're doing and what you're capturing. So I would say while you are working on building your portfolio, you can also unleash your creativity using some of these cool data sets. Which brings me to my third tip of the day. Do the analysis and don't just provide the data. I got this advice when I started out at Google and wish I had gotten it sooner. But I was asked for some sign-up numbers from previous week, and I emailed them back with the numbers. My then boss at that point in time emailed me that, hey, never you dare to provide just the numbers. I was like, okay. He told me, like, tell me what do they mean? Do the analysis, not just the numbers. Now, he didn't say those exact words, but he kind of meant that. In the next 45 minutes or something, that changed the way I look at analytics. I went back, provided the incrementals, compared the numbers to set up the context right, outlined that so what. So what is a very important question that you would ask, and the kind of users we got in terms of signups. Outlining that context, the application of it changed my life, and I would urge everyone here to perform the analysis and not just provide the numbers when you're doing any sort of job. It's just to build your analytical mindset. With that, here are our class vote distribution at this point in time. You voted out. We have a large portion in our class which voted to become a data analyst, which is great. I would like us to think about, is this a similar trend that you see in the industry? I would say yes. I would also like to think about, after going through the titles, does anyone want to change their title, change their decision? Think through that as well. Okay, which brings me to our next slide, where I want to walk you through my influencers. One thing common among 3 of these successful personalities is that they love to teach. Avinash is leading marketing analytics at Google, and I recommend going through his blogs on analytics. He has some very cool videos on YouTube as well that will inspire you to present in a very joyful way. It has helped me immensely. I would recommend you to do that too. Now, Andrew is a co-founder of Coursera and leading AI research at Stanford. I recommend going on YouTube and going through his videos to start with. I'm sure he'll get you excited about AI and his vision and his future. I'm currently learning, I think I mentioned that before, the deep learning, watching his videos on Coursera. He makes it very easy to understand. So just do it. Brian is a founder and is an investor in several startup companies. He also runs a school named Reforge, where he teaches frameworks on growing the product. I recommend you go through many of his blogs. I've taken a couple of his courses at Reforge on growth strategy as well as advanced growth strategy. And they're really, really nice. It comes from a collective effort of a lot of growth practitioners out there in the industry, from companies like Facebook, Uber, Airbnb, Credit Karma. It provides a deep inside overview of a collective effort, how to grow a product from 0 to 1,000 millions. Yep. Next, I want to talk about a few of my readings. So Good They Can't Ignore You. That's one of the books that bursts the myth of around follow your passion advice with concrete examples and provide you tools on developing your career. Playing to Win is a brilliant, brilliant book on how to develop strategy for a given company. And Decode and Conquer will help you in presenting and preparing for interviews, mostly on business cases, which are an important part of analytics journey. You, as an analytics professional, have to talk to several stakeholders. For me currently, my stakeholders are product managers, people from engineering, people from operations. Talking to them and bringing everyone on the same page of the idea. And how do you convey your idea to them? How do you build a business case? All of those things, this book will help you decode and conquer. Now, one thing that I learned from Stanford Business School is they provided these leadership competencies and leadership values that I would also like you to practice. There are 5 leadership competencies and 4 values that every leader should embody: self-awareness, perspective taking, context, communication, and decision making are, are those 5. Out of that, I'm focused on building and refining my skills on context side. I request you that you go through a thorough exercise of self introspection and find out which one do you want to work on. There is a relentless pursuit of becoming better as a leader. My CEO of Walmart e-commerce, Doug McMillan, is currently focused on public speaking. That is one skill that he is honing on at this point in time. So I would urge you to select your skill that you want to actually polish. On the value side, a leader should always be humble, curious, compassionate, and courageous. There will be times in when you have to take courageous decisions, bold decisions. How do you handle those times? There is courage needed to be an effective leader. How do you build it is up to you. Introspect yourself. Find out which one do you want to build. Outline it in the timeline and work towards it. Lastly, I will end with that it's a whole new world out there. There will be ups and downs in life. We are going through the worst pandemic, but technology came to our rescue. The future is in your hands, so be brave and march on. That's all that I have to say. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Really appreciated your presentation today, and really enjoyed sort of seeing the breakdown during the presentation. Actually bringing analytics into the presentation is awesome. So thank you for that, and thank you for the recommendations. I'll be sharing that sort of screen of your recommendations of books and things that have helped you in the past. So yeah, I'd like to move into questions for this next 10 to 15 minutes here. And we have one here that's a lot of people are wondering about, but Levy asked, with cookies going away, how will analysts be able to track consumer behavior online, perform campaign analyses, and generate metrics to provide insights to businesses?
Right. They're not going away, but they are, at this point in time, what is happening is a user is providing consent that if should I be trackable or not. That's the thing that you must have seen at this point in time. A lot of websites do ask for consent, and most of the time users are providing consent, but you can always go back and revoke those consent. So still there are so many users out there. Not everyone is revoking their consent on tracking. So overall statistics and analysis is not going away.
Gotcha. Thank you. And the next question comes from Axel, and Axel's wondering, what are your thoughts about going into the healthcare vertical? Would it limit his future opportunities?
Sorry, if I have to repeat the question, what do I have to work?
He's asking about going into the healthcare vertical.
Okay.
I think in regards to analytics.
Yeah, I think it's a big piece of the pie. There has been a lot of innovation that has been done on the marketing side, on the finance side, where algorithms are powering the Wall Street and algorithms are powering the marketing of it at this point in time. But a huge focus is there on the healthcare side at this point in time. A couple of examples that come to my mind is Neuralink as a company. They are doing some cool stuff. Verily at Google, they are doing some cool stuff where they launched several experiments. One of them was related to, I think, bees, where uh, they used some mosquitoes to kill different kind of mosquitoes. And they're also doing several experiments which are related to tracking your glucose level and providing you more tremendous health benefits overall. So to the person who asked this question, I would say there is a tremendous amount of opportunity that is there in the healthcare domain at this point in time, and which is not there in other domains at this time because they're already way far ahead. I would go ahead and start exploring. Google has been successful in identifying and applying AI technologies to identify and cancerous tissues, which a human or a naked eye cannot do it, or a bunch of experts cannot do it. So there is definitely great potential in going inside healthcare when you're starting out at this time.
Awesome. Thanks for that insight. And question here on sort of your problem solving process. The question is, how do you approach difficult problems within data management? Can you explain your problem solving process?
Sure. Most of the problems are related to the consumer, and that's as a consumer centric company and working as a professional in a consumer centric company. I would like to first clarify the first process is to how do you comprehend the situation and ask the questions like what is the context of the question, what is the problem that they are facing, what are the goals and metrics that we are going against, and are there any constraints that are associated with it, like constraints in terms of geography or things on that nature. Second step that I also would like you to is identify the customer. So who is the customer at this time? Is it resellers or soccer moms or some other sort of user persona that we are targeting? And then third step is report the customer needs, where you go, you select a persona and then find out what are the specific needs for that persona. And once you have outlined all the needs, then you prioritize those needs based on what will be the best outcome for it and list out solutions for those needs. And then once you have identified the solutions, you evaluate, is it good, is it bad, based on some sort of metrics that is predetermined. It can be like a ROI versus effort, or it can be some other framework where you use like net present value, calculate the net present value of the entire solution, and then calculate the overall divided by the total effort that it's going to take, provide you some number, and then based on it, you can prioritize overall solutions that you have. And then in the end, you just summarize your recommendations. And that's the process that I usually follow to any sort of problem, not just database management, but yeah, any sort of problem that I'll follow this process to solve it out.
Yeah, thank you for that framework. It's definitely helpful to think about how to tackle like the bigger problems that require a lot of background, and so sort of seeing how you break up those steps is definitely helpful. And the next question is from Tamara, which is, do you have any insight into policy analyst positions? What type of functions they perform, comparison to what you're doing?
Yeah, policy analyst would actually work on closely. They are framed under fraud department. So policy, they don't fall under very technical category. What you would end up doing is outlining a policy which is in line with the company's mission and values and goals, and once you have outlined the policy, make sure that fraud is not happening, and it curbs all sort of things which are related to fraud. Um, Fraudster can come up with different ways of exploiting an organization or business. For Google, it's clickbait. For eBay, it's payments. How do you define policies to curb those things? How do you make sure that only people who have signed up are able to exploit a particular offer? So policymakers are definitely in the middle. A license plays a license role between executives as well as the business side of things, and the engineering. So they don't have to be very technical, but they should be able to understand the technical jargon as well.
Great, thank you. This is more, I think, stemming from you sharing your some of the book recommendations that you had. Are there like newsletters or podcasts that you listen to regularly that would be useful for college students maybe looking to get into analytics, or just sort of for general knowledge?
Sure. I don't listen to a lot of podcasts, but I do go through newsletters and blogs, and I think I mentioned a couple of them there. So there's a huge blog post written by Avinash Kaushik in Occam's Razor. Just search for Avinash Kaushik's blog post and you will find it. He's also currently doing a premium version of his newsletters. It sends it out weekly, and they talk about various problems that the organizations can solve using analytics. All of the proceeds of that blog post go to charity at this point in time, which is pretty amazing. And I tend to follow it. It has helped me immensely throughout my career till now. And that's one thing that I will recommend you also do it. Also, on the reforge side of things, Brian has like amazing blog posts on how to grow the company, how to build those frameworks. What do you actually focus on when you are defining a particular metric, especially a metric which is related to growth? How do you define a retention metric? If you're defining a monthly active user, why are you defining monthly active? Why not weekly active? Or why not yearly active or quarterly active? How do you decide on that? And what does activity mean in that particular metric? Is it members who are clicking? Is it members who are buying? What does that mean? Outlining all those things are really important. Follow his blog post and you will learn a lot. And if you got a chance at any point in time to take his courses, I would recommend that you also do that.
Yeah, I've followed some of those posts, Brian's, and they're really well done. So I can also vouch for that. But thank you.
Yeah.
I will definitely link to Brian's as well as the Avinash post as well. And the next question here is more, I guess, employment related, job opportunity related, and what growing industries do you see that are like offering the most opportunity for someone looking to pursue a career in analytics?
Yeah, I think the biggest growth industry at this point in time that I foresee is artificial intelligence overall, and focused on analytics, definitely. There is a growing need of setting aside repetitive work, and the overall focus within artificial intelligence and machine learning has been doing jobs where we have provided the input historically. Now the paradigm has been shifting with overall computation being available, and hopefully in the next 10 years we'll have some quantum computing as well. Then it will change the overall paradigm on how much calculations that we can do. And these algorithms that currently are still limited by the infrastructure, it will unleash their bandwidth to compute more complex tasks and become better at it. So I would say artificial intelligence applied to any field is the one that is definitely growing at this point in time. Especially if you look at what is happening with Tesla, autonomous cars, Waymo, as well as if you look at on the marketing side, where previously we would provide a couple of creatives and A/B test those creatives, and the winner we will launch it. But now at this point in time, we'll provide 5 creatives to a machine learning algorithm. It will automatically decide in the backend which one is the winner, and it will showcase that to the member. On top of it, now more sophisticated algorithms can also do, they will find out, okay, you are being targeted, you are in this kind of profile, so I'm going to show you this kind of creative versus some other. Netflix does a great job at it. They'll try to flip the cards. If you have noticed at this point in time of the movies, it's going to be the same movie, but you might end up clicking on it because you saw a different card and start watching it maybe. So they are trying to exploit emotional intelligence out of the data, and machine learning is definitely helping them do that. So in analytics, artificial intelligence is the one that is going to be big in the next few years.
Absolutely. And to follow up on the AI side of that, the question here is, must data analysts know machine learning and AI as they involve complex coding, or is Tableau, Power BI, SQLR enough?
For a data analyst, that is enough. But for artificial intelligence, you would have to know Python coding. So within Python, there are several packages, you can say. And within libraries, you have like TensorFlow, Caffe, Keras. All of these are machine learning AI libraries. That has made the job really easier for plug and play. You put in the data set, you'd fine tune some of the hyperparameters, and it will do the job for you and find out the best neural network, so on and so forth. You would have to know some sort of coding to actually exploit artificial intelligence. SQL and business knowledge and is good enough, but that will, if you just have those two knowledge, then I would go ahead and don't want to acquire any of the Python coding skills. Then I would foresee yourself as becoming more of a business person over time and becoming business savvy to hone your skills in that particular department. Find out if you're doing X, how does that impact the business in the end? And rather than, unless and until you are actually interested in Python and want to go ahead with it. So
awesome. Saumitra, thank you so much. I think I'm going to end it with one question, which is sort of broad meta question, and I think it's a good one to end on. So what does the future of analytics look like to you?
It's so bright, never been better. It has been the sexiest job termed as the sexiest job of the 21st century, and it is just getting sexier with the amount of data that is available at our helm at this point in time. It needs a keen eye and a curious eye to look at and solve world's problem. It also needs a humble eye where you see so many problems and issues coming up in terms of privacy, and empathetic eye as well. So you need to wear so many different hats and find out solutions for this world at this point in time. And this, for analytics, the world has never been better.
Awesome. I think this has been a really, really insightful hour. Thank you so much for preparing that presentation. I think it definitely was insightful and helpful to people that are on the fence, maybe didn't know much about the analytics career path, but also to people that are already interested and working on it. So you did a really great job covering it from all sides, and then this Q&A session as well. has been incredibly helpful. Saumitra, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And yeah, enjoy the rest of your Thursday.
Thank you so much. It's been an honor. Thank you, everyone. And you can provide my email to any of the students, and if they have any further questions, they can reach out to me.
Perfect. Will do. Thank you so much. Thanks everyone also who's tuning in on the YouTube. Make sure to subscribe and follow up on our next events coming up. I'll post a screen with all our handles so you can follow there for everything. We have 2 great events tomorrow, breaking into the marketing industry with Yen, and then getting your recruiter's attention and breaking down common recruiting misconceptions. So really excited for those on Friday, but everyone enjoy your Thursday. And Saumitra, thanks so much. We will see you soon. Goodbye.